else can approve any drug for the indication. Some people think that that's the case, but that's not the case. It's just if another company wants to come along with the same drug for the same indication, they can't market it. Exclusivity can be broken in cases of drug shortage. So if the company that has exclusivity for some reason or other can no longer provide the drug or create the drug, then there are situations where exclusivity can be broken. And a major thing that we deal with is called clinical superiority. So we approve the active moiety of the drug. If somebody else comes in with the same drug for the same disease, but there's something about the drug or the way it's presented, the formulation, or what's something that is shown or that we agree is clinically superior to the original drug, then exclusivity can be broken, but they have to show that they have been clinically superior. As was stated, originally it was thought that the exclusivity was not the major issue, but that is the major issue that the industry is interested in at this time. So a little bit about orphan drug designations. As you can see, in 1983 there were not that many, but as you know, obviously drugs for rare diseases were not being developed. Very few. 16 applications and 1 designation. And last year, 2014, there was 451 applications, of which 293 received designation. I'd also mention that we have 8, at the present time we have 8 reviewers, and so that means that for those 451, each reviewer gets to review about approximately 50 applications per year. So we're very busy. It's also the case that the total of about 4,700 requests have been received, and about 3,200 designations have been granted. I want to talk briefly about marketing approval standards. The approval standards for drugs in the United States are substantial evidence of safety and effectiveness, generally means 2 well-controlled clinical trials. The same approval, according to the law, is in effect for orphan drugs. They don't make a special situation. It's the same standard approval, which has historically created a problem, but without going into all the details, the point is that now there is more flexibility that depends on the case, and there's some lenience, if you will, and things have been approved with less than full 2 well-controlled trials, which of course affects small populations like the rare disease populations. The orphan drug approvals, there's been over 500 approvals to date, and you can see they've increased significantly. These are the approvals of the drugs that have been designated. Okay, so if that's confusing. The others were designations. This is the actual approvals of the designated products. I'd like to then now turn to other orphan OOPD programs. The Orphan Products Grants Program, which came about in the Orphan Drug Act, funds only clinical programs, no preclinical studies, clinical trials for rare disease products. One of the points I want to point out is that we recently had an increase. For the last few years, we've had $14 million a year roughly to give out for that program. It's now $15 million, which means that for phase 1 trials, you can fund up to $250,000 a year for up to 3 years in fiscal year 15. And previous years, it was $200,000 for 3 years, each year for 3 years. Now, phase 1 and 2 trials are now $500,000 a year for up to 4 years as of fiscal year 15, with $400,000 being the previous amount. The thing to note for this meeting is that it doesn't have to be American companies, and the trials don't have to be in America. It can be international countries from outside America, or companies from outside America can ask for these grants, apply for them, and they can do their trials in their countries or wherever they care to. We do ask that we ask why they can't do the trial in the United States, which is part of the application, but the possibility is there, so that if that's pertinent to you folks, you know, we wanted to address that possibility. The Orphan Products Grants Program has been a very successful program to date. Over the last 30 years, odd years, we've received over 2,100 grant applications, and we've funded 650 studies. And 10% of the approvals of orphan products have previously gotten grants from our Orphan Products Grants Program. Some examples of orphan products that have received grants was a scorpion antivenom, a biologic agent used for the treatment of neurotoxicity, and it's actually an estimated 5,000 deaths annually worldwide for this product. Kalydeco is another drug that was used to help people with defective CFTR proteins, which is the underlying cause of cystic fibrosis. The Orphan Products Grants Program also gives grants for device development. In this case, the example is the Berlin Heart for pediatric ventricular assist device, which is a device used to bridge in children until the time of possible transplantation. Another very much more recent device program is the Priority Review Voucher Program for rare pediatric disease determination. This is to incentivize development of therapies for pediatric diseases. It's not specified for rare diseases, but since the vast number of pediatric rare diseases are rare, we run the show. The basic idea is if a sponsor can show that their disease is a rare pediatric disease, which we define as more than 50% of the population who have the disease are children, less than 18. So if there's a lot of people who have the disease as children, but then they remain alive through adulthood, and there's more people, adults, they won't qualify. It's only people who have the majority of the children, of the disease, people with the disease are children. And I'll show you what the idea is here. If sponsor A submits an application to show that their disease they're working on is a rare pediatric disease, and we agree that it is, then ultimately, when the product is approved, if it's approved, the sponsor can receive a rare pediatric disease priority review voucher. So it's a voucher that they can use on another drug subsequently and give them priority review, which is very important to the companies, extremely important. It means that they can take their voucher and use it for any drug they want to, one that would not normally get priority review, and they would, with that voucher, they could get priority review. So that's a financial advantage to them. And the idea is that it would incentivize them to develop the rare disease product and then use the next one for another product that may be more financially beneficial, possibly. The other caveat is, well, that would be the redemption by sponsor A, where they would get priority review. The caveat is that this is the important thing here. They can sell that voucher to another company who thinks they would like to use the voucher too. So that also adds to the financial incentive, because whatever they can get for that voucher may be beneficial to them, and the point is they would want to develop the drug for the rare disease and then sell it to someone else and make, and benefit from the fact that they potentially sell their voucher to someone else. Oops. This has only been going on since 2012. There's The requests in 2012, the first year, no requests, no determinations. The second year, there were 5 requests and 3 determinations, qualified. So if they get approval, they could get this voucher. Of course, a lot more people got interested. There were 19 applications in 2014 and 8 designations as rare pediatric diseases. And then in 2015, of course, it's not complete. So far, we've had 16 and 8 have been designated. And this, I think, is the interesting part relative to this. As I say, I was hoping to present new information, new things happening. The first drug that was approved under not under this program, that the drug was in our program and it got approved, was Vimizim, company Biomarin. They got priority review and fast track possibilities. And it's interesting to note that the MPS 4A, which coincidentally is one of the diseases that was in the pamphlet or the booklet in our package this week, was the disease. It was approved in February 14th, 2014. 2 weeks later, we expect that there was about 800 people in the United States with this disease, and they're severely affected, and survival beyond childhood and early adolescence is not expected. That's the issues of that disease. So what happened was they decided to sell the voucher. They got the priority review voucher. 2 weeks later, they sold the voucher to another company, and it was public information. The price they got for that voucher was $67 million. I can assure you that the day that was, information became available, there were many people in our office walking around saying, "What?" We were astonished at that price, but nevertheless, that was it. So my point is, it was a great incentive for that company to develop a product for the rare disease. Not just for what they would get for that, but for this voucher. The next product that was came along was 2 weeks later, actually, neuroblastoma United Therapeutics. 2 weeks after that, within a month of the other product, this company sold their product for $245 million. Again, astonishing. The third product that was approved, Asclepion, March 17th, a few days later, again, they sold their voucher, and this one sold for $350 million. We were flabbergasted. And of course, that money has nothing to do with the FDA. It's totally outside of our purvey, if you will. It was just astonishing. And this is just a struggle, the fact that these are rare diseases. The fourth one happened just last month, September 4th, 2015. This was uridine triacetate for hereditary erotic aciduria. They also sold their voucher, but neither they nor the buyers decided to divulge what the price was for whatever reason, but we imagine it was similar. So I think that's a program that is new information for people. I was going to say also, this disease, our understanding that it affects 8 people in the United States. So this is a case where a rare disease with only 8 people in it was able to sell probably for certainly millions of dollars or the equivalent value. So, now the fact is, for this program, there's a sunset provision, meaning that what the Congress said was after a year after the third the third drug was approved, a year after that, the program would stop. So it's going to stop in March of 2016. They're going to evaluate then whether there was any value. Did we get value in terms of what happened? The drugs was it the situation where the incentives got the companies to develop the drug for the rare disease, or were they going to do it anyway and kind of, we're not sure. So that's going to be looked at. But it's likely that this will be renewed. I want to go now to the device-related programs. How much time do I have left? I guess I do. 5 minutes? Okay, that's it. As I said, we also designate as rare devices. There's a humanitarian use device designation, which means the company comes in and says, well, we expect this device to be used by less than 4,000 people per year. And after we evaluate that and agree with it, they can get this HUD, humanitarian use device designation. This allows them to get eventually an HDE. I'm sorry. This allows them to get an HDE, which is a humanitarian device exemption, which allows them to put the device on the market for slightly less requirements than normal, if you will. They have to show safety and probable benefit, so it's an advantage to them to have that designation. The second program I want to talk about is the Pediatric Device Consortia. This is also new. This is a situation where we give money to consortia not to do a particular study, but to be available, to be experts available for another individual or company or sponsor to come to them and get their advice on how they can develop it. So it's sort of like a lawyer with a retainer. These people take the funds and wait to be asked to give their information and their help to someone or to some sponsor that could benefit. The kinds of information can be intellectual property, law, business planning, funding advice, regulatory consulting, preclinical and clinical study planning, and reimbursement counseling, everything involved with the development of things. But these people, assumingly, have done it. They're interested. They're usually focused on a given type of indication, and they have the expertise to help new sponsors get involved. We funded 8 consortia this year at $3.5 million, and since 2009, when the program started, we have funded about $21.4 million spent on the program to date. These consortia provided advice on development of over 570 pediatric medical devices, and the companies who got the help subsequently asked for and obtained fundings up to $65 million towards these projects. So our amount going in has increased significantly, and hopefully help. The last thing I want to mention is our focus on rare disease collaborations. We have cross-agency collaborations with the Office of New Drugs Rare Disease Program. So we're mission with deciding, or among other things, determining if the product is for a rare disease. There's a office called the Rare Disease Program in the Center for Drugs, which deals with all of the review divisions that decide whether a drug can be approved, about the special circumstances that they should consider when dealing with rare diseases. And this is a lot of work, as you can imagine. So some people in the review divisions have never done a rare disease, and that's a helpful situation. We interact with them. A lot of that is within the Rare Disease Council, which meets once a week, sometimes every 2 weeks, where everybody involved with rare diseases gets together to talk about what's happening. We've also had interactions with the FDA's NCATS group, which you may hear about a little bit later. It was an important interaction. And we have international rare disease partnerships. The main one, frankly, right now is with the EMA. We have monthly meetings where we get to, and they're every month. We get together and talk about issues of concern. We talk about how they make decisions. We tell them how we make decisions. It doesn't mean that we both make the same decision based on anything, but we explain so everybody knows what's happening, so we have them more. And I wanted to point out that Gerardus has a membership spot in that monthly meeting. They're always at the meeting. We don't call them when we think there's something. They're members. And if they have something to contribute, and they're not listening members, they're just routine members. If they have something to contribute, they're there. So there's that, you know,